Hi there, how are you? I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. And I totally sound like Bailey Sarian. If you don't know who she is, you should definitely check her out. She is amazing. She does the Monday mystery makeup. Anyway, this is the weirdest intro. Today's video is just a get ready with me while we chat about older women dating younger men, which happens to be something that I have a lot of experience and practice in. Although I'm presently single, I have dated a few long-term relationships I've had with younger men. And so while I just put on all this makeup on my face, we can just, just chat about that. Okay, let's just jump right in. Okay, before we get started, check out my background. How do you like that? Isn't that cute? I just picked that up. Okay, let's put our hair back. I always say our, I don't know why. I'm pretty sure I would find that annoying if I was watching someone that kept saying our when it's just me. Anyway, let's start with priming our face. I'm gonna go on with this one. Oh, so like I said, we're just gonna talk about dating, because it's been like 6 years since I've dated. Oh my god, I'm filming. Okay, I had to pull my hair up because it is so hot in this basement. I'm like melting away. So probably my makeup will start falling off by the time we are done, but the show must go on, right? Okay, so dating in general, I feel like is stressful. And I feel like the older we get, the more challenging it becomes. For a lot of reasons. Things are different now. Dating is not what it used to be back in the day, where people, met in person or through a friend, or, now it's so different. You meet online, it's like whatever. But I have been single for the last 6 years, and I have been married twice. But interestingly enough, the two men that I married were not younger than me. They were both, one was my age exactly, and the other one was 1 year older. Since my divorces, I have dated three different people that were a lot younger than me. By the way, this is the Screen Queen. This foundation is amazing, but it has more coverage than I typically like. It's like a solid medium buildable. Anyway, the first guy that I dated after my second divorce, the age gap was 15 years. I was 15 years older than him. I was in my late 30s and he was in his early 20s. And we met at a lounge, because back then I was very much even though I had 3 kids already, I loved the club scene. I loved going to lounges. I loved partying and hanging out. And I was a late bloomer. So I started growing up, I grew up in a very strict home, very old-fashioned Dominican mentality type, parenting, where I wasn't allowed to go out, I wasn't allowed to date, I wasn't even allowed to go to my prom. That's how old school and strict they were. So I didn't get to experience the normal things like a normal teenager. And so when I was finally able to leave home, which didn't happen until I was 20, that's when I felt like, okay, I'm free. I can finally do all these things that I have been wanting to do, that all my friends in high school were doing and in college, that I never got to do. So I think I kind of got overexcited, and so I ran with it, and then I became, like a hardcore party animal. So still in my late 30s, I was still very much kind of doing that. going out. Obviously not as much because I was raising 3 kids on my own and working full time in New York and commuting and whatnot. So, you know, I made time for it. So I met him at a lounge. He lied to me and told me he was older, and I believed him even though he had such a cute baby face. And I ended up being with this guy for 6 years. You know, he ended up living with us, and I really thought it was gonna last even longer. We were really in love. His family was very accepting, even though, you know, not very many parents would be happy with your 22-year-old bringing home an older woman with 3 kids. And my concern, I would always tell him at the beginning, it's like, you know, you're too young. I'm not gonna have any more kids. I don't want you to miss out on having a family of your own. And so I said, if you're gonna bail, this is the time to do it. I kept giving him chances. I kept bringing it up because I felt guilty. I felt bad for him. I didn't want him to miss out on being, you know, a parent. And he was good with my kids. He really, for the most part, he loved them. But then, you know, other things got in the way, like our partying got like out of control, and then you know, behaviors changed, and then I wasn't okay with the behaviors, and so that's when the relationship ended. But at the beginning, for the most part, he considered my kids his kids, so he would always tell me that he didn't feel like he was missing out, that it was okay, that he didn't care, that he loved me, and that was more important to him. Being with me was more important than having his own children. I don't know why I'm putting more. I normally don't do that. Yeah, I remember that was my very first experience with dating someone a lot younger, someone who's like in a very different stage in their lives. You know, he's still trying to figure out who he was, what he wanted to do, and here I was already having been married twice with 3 kids, a teenager and 2 toddlers. So, I mean, that's something that most men would really run for really quickly. But he just wanted to make it work, and so we did. We lasted 6 years. My insecurity in that relationship wasn't as obvious at the beginning. I think because, you know, I was like 37, 39. Anyway, at the beginning, I think I was 37 when I started dating him, but I always looked younger. So when we would go out, there were some times where I would even get carded at some places. So I felt like, you know, it wasn't a big deal. But then over the years, I started getting really insecure because I started to get older, and I always felt like people judged me. I felt like my family judged me. I felt like just society in general. You know, I would get comments like, you know, you're a MILF, that's your boy toy, and things like that. And, you know, here we were in love, and to us, like, it didn't matter. Like, age in this case really was just a number. Because after you're with someone, like, you don't care. You don't notice those things. I'm sure he didn't care about my, you know, C-section scar or my stretch marks or my wrinkles. Like, he didn't care about stuff like that because he loved me for me. And so for us, we didn't have a problem, but I felt judged, and I tried to look for support. I remember I went on, back then, I don't know if they still have them, but it was like, they were called message health boards. And so there was a community there for women, older women that were dating younger men. And I started being really, you know, active in that community because I wanted to hear from other women that were going through the same thing as me, through the same insecurities, through the same. I just wanted support because no one, my friends or family, I just didn't feel like they understood because they weren't in the same place. And so I would read about couples that were like even like 35-year age gap. So obviously that made me feel better because I was thinking, okay, well, this is nothing. 15 years is nothing. And so I did that I got my support from there, and then it just became, then it was fine. But as women, I think in general, I think we tend to be a little bit more insecure with our bodies than men are. At least I am, especially when it comes to intimacy. And I think that is more so when you're, with someone who's a lot younger and whose body is different than yours, especially a body of a woman who's had 3 kids. Kids do a lot of, they do destroy your body, and it showed, but he didn't care, like I said. But anyway, 6 years into it, things just, like I said, didn't work out, and, we went our separate ways, and it was very difficult getting, the breakup was really hard for me. I broke up with him because I had to, and I had to think of my family first, not because I didn't love him, but I had to think of my kids' well-being and my well-being, and that relationship unfortunately became toxic. It became just not healthy whatsoever. And so I had to make the decision. And it took me a very long time. Heartbreak is just, I'm sure all of you have experienced it at least once. It's very, very difficult. It's, takes forever. It feels like you're never gonna feel normal again. It feels like you're never gonna wake up and not think of that person, like the first thought in the day, not be about that person. Over time, I began to heal. He went on, started dating a stripper, and then that I had started to feel better, but then I heard that he had married her, and then the craziness started again. And I became even more obsessed about the breakup because I started comparing myself to her, and she must have a perfect body, she's a stripper and she can do all these things, and why wouldn't he? And so my insecurity just got even worse and worse and worse after that. But then I met someone who reached out to me on Facebook, and this is the thing, I never set out to say, I only date younger guys, so I only like younger guys. I never set out to do that, but for some reason, that seems to be what I attract. It's always been that way. And even with girlfriends, my friends, most of I don't have a lot of friends, but young girls gravitate towards me. So I find myself like a small group of friends. I look around and they're my daughter's age. My daughter, the oldest one, who's 30. So it's not just with the guys. There's something about me that I don't know what it is, but it's just like young people feel comfortable around me, I guess. And so this guy, the guy reached out to me on Facebook. I didn't know him. I don't know who he was, but apparently we had someone in common because he was my friend on Facebook. And we started talking, and then I agreed to go on a date. This one was, the age gap was, I think, only 13 or 14. It was a little less. That was a rebound. That was definitely a rebound. I got into that relationship for the wrong reason, and boy, was that a mistake. This was a completely obsessed, insecure, jealous, psycho of a person and who caused a lot of damage in my life, a lot of chaos, and to the point that I even, I got scared. I became scared because I felt threatened by him, and he was reaching out to people I knew, like friends of friends. He was stalking me, he was harassing me, and I even had to go to the authorities. Well, that relationship only lasted like a year, but it took me longer than that to be able to feel, safe and feel at peace. This guy was a complete nut job, and I guess I've never been a good judge of character, I guess, or it is just simply that we attract what we think we deserve, or if I'm not healthy, I'm not going to attract someone healthy. And so that's the kind of place I was in my life. I didn't have the knowledge or the confidence or have the self-esteem that I have today. It was very different back then, and so that's what I attracted. So anyway, a lot of years went by, and then I found myself again meeting someone who was way younger than me, and we were friends. He lived in a different state, and so we had common friends. We have friends in common. We had friends in common. And so, our paths would cross here and there, not very often, but I always would think like, oh, he is so cute. He's got the cutest baby face, but never thinking like anything of it. I don't think at the beginning I thought that it would turn into anything else other than just an acquaintance. But then one time he was in the neighborhood and hit me up, and he was like, can I just swing by? And I was like, sure. Like, no problem, still thinking nothing of it. And he ended up coming, and it was like a weekend, and back then I had my basement, I still have it, like a ping pong table, and so this was like the party room down here. My daughter, the oldest, would have a lot of parties down here when she was in high school. So this was like the party house. And to this day, like all my nieces, like this is the house that everyone likes coming to because I'm not strict. So anyway, people always feel comfortable. Like they always considered me the fun aunt or the fun mom, the cool mom. So he comes over and we're all hanging out. We end up drinking too much, and long story short, we end up staying like all night, just talking, hanging out. It was like summertime. We end up like in the porch, just like talking. He ended up leaving, going back to New York like the next day, like the next morning, but we just stayed up talking. And then, so something clicked. We realized that we had like a lot of things in common. Like we just really bonded, as one tends to do over some drinks and whatnot. And so then I kind of started seeing him in a different light after that night. So that kind of opened my eyes to, oh wow. But again, I just really was not trying to do that again. From my past experience with dating younger men, I said, you know what, I don't want to do this. Sorry, I keep dropping all my brushes. I was like, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to deal with immaturity. Like, I'm too old for that. Like, I kept telling myself this, like, talking myself out of it before anything happened. I mean, and at this point, he hadn't like made a pass at me or anything like that. It's just that I knew that we had connected, and I saw the beginning of something. So then I met up with him again. this time where he lives in New York, and so we ended up again, went to a bar, ended up hanging out, and this time, to my surprise, I was the one that initiated it. Because he was being like, I don't want to get into details, but because of this person that we had in common, that we knew, he felt like he had to be respectful because he would offend this person. So I kind of sensed that, and I knew that that's what was kind of holding him back. So I knew that it would kind of have to be me who kind of gave the green light. See, but even then I didn't go there with that intention. But after a couple of drinks, and then again we started bonding, I just found myself like just, reaching out and kissing him. And then he was like, oh, okay. And then the rest is history. No. He was 25. I was 50 at the time. This was 6 years ago. So I just turned 56. And boy, was I not ready for what was to come. This one, because the age gap was so different, and because I was already, I was 50, so I no longer looked like I was in my 20s. I didn't even look like I was in my 30s. My age started to show, and then he had like a baby face. So much so, he looked younger than 25. So much so that he once told me that he could actually get away with getting on the bus like around the time that school lets out, and they would let him on the bus. He would just tell them, I forgot my bus pass, and they would let him in. That's how young he looked, okay? So yeah, pretty bad. So this relationship lasted 2 years. It was the hardest 2 years of my life. Maybe not the hardest, but definitely up there. My family thought I had lost my mind and needed to be institutionalized, which I probably did. But for other reasons I did. And I did end up going away, but not for that. But anyway, when they realized and saw that I was dating this kid, my oldest sister, I remember she came by and he was here. We were sitting on the porch, and she's like, Nancy, what are you doing? Is he even out of school? And I felt so horrible. I was just so mortified. So all those feelings that I had back with my first relationship, when I was trying to make peace with that, and not feel judged, it all came flooding back, and I just felt embarrassed. I felt ashamed. I felt like disgust for myself. Like I really hated myself, because I started thinking of myself as someone, I started to believe what I thought people were saying about me. Like, there's something wrong with you. Like, there's definitely something wrong with you, Nancy, because why would you want to be with someone that's 25 years younger? So I started, torturing myself with those thoughts. And his family, like, they accepted me for the most part, only because I think they were afraid. I know his mom for sure was like afraid of him, so I would go and stay the weekend over there and whatnot, and he lived with her, and she kind of didn't have, like, it was like she didn't have a choice. She was kind of afraid of him. Very, very weird, dysfunctional relationship. But so they sucked it up. The father was really sweet. Him and I used to have long talks. He really accepted me for who I was, and he was just really kind. The sisters hated me, which I'm sure, those of you out there listening would probably, you don't want to see your little brother dating a 50-year-old woman with 3 kids, with a daughter that's the same age, right? So I felt all this judgment, and the more judged I felt, the more I hated myself, and the more, all this like just bad feelings all around. And then the relationship itself, while it was the most exhilarating, amazing experience, it was like the more exciting it was, the more painful it then became. It's almost like the more you love, the more intensely you can hate. Like those feelings are like kind of tied together. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it was just like I was really, really in love with this guy, and I thought he was really in love with me. Well, now thinking back, I think he was just using me. He never held a job the entire time that I knew him, and I always had a job. So yeah, a lot of people thought that, he was just using me because I gave him what he needed in whatever way, shape, or form. And they were not wrong to think that way. So yeah, I really, really did believe that he loved me until things got really complicated and his true colors started coming through, and the verbal abuse started, the physical abuse started, the stealing started. He would steal from me, my credit card. He would steal from his mom. And I'm not judging, I'm not saying, I was in a really bad place in my life too at that point, so I was doing some really shady things myself. Like I said, we attract who we are. And unfortunately, that's the kind of place I was in. And finally, the things got so out of hand that the family got involved. I remember one time my sister came with me and to his house because I had a bunch of stuff there, and packed me up, and supposedly that was it. But it was just like one of those things that I was like so obsessed, and so it was like beyond. It wasn't healthy, obviously, because it wasn't love. I knew the relationship was so distorted and twisted and dysfunctional, and I knew I couldn't see it for what it was though. At that time, everyone would tell me like, look what he's doing, like why can't you see it? And my therapist would tell me the same. Everywhere, I could not see it because I was in such denial, because I think I was just afraid of letting him go, afraid of the pain, because I had attempted several times and ended up going back. Over and over and over, ended up going back. Until the last time, which was in 2015, I literally had to leave, physically had to leave, and go to a place where he couldn't reach me. Sorry, it's just sweat, okay? It's not boogers. Anyway, I had to physically remove myself because it was like an addiction. I didn't know how. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to end it. So I moved I went into treatment in Florida, and I was afraid of coming back, so I ended up getting a job out there, and my younger kids were with my family at the time, with my sisters. They were caring, and my oldest daughter too was helping out. I didn't just abandon my kids. I just want to make that clear. I'm bad, but I'm not a terrible person. At least I try not to be. Not anymore. So yeah, I got a job. I even bought a car while I was out there, and just because I was afraid of coming back, I didn't trust myself. And then my oldest daughter decided she wanted to go back to school, so I had to come back. So after 6 months, I came back, and I just started going to therapy, making sure that I kept talking about it, and I was still very much in love. I was obsessed. I was still obsessed with him. I would journal about it. I would talk to my therapist about it, and she would tell me, Nancy, he should have no access to you, because I told her, well, I blocked my number, I blocked his number, but now he emails me, and it would be like a trigger every time I would see his name or anything come up or something. I blocked him on all my social. And I said to her, but he emails me, and she's like, well, but he should then change the email. He should not have access to you, because you're not going to make progress. The progress I was making with her, the healing I was trying to do, if I allowed him to, continue to play with my emotions, reach out to me, there could come a time that I was going to falter, and I was going to, just like any, oh shoot, I messed that up. I'll fix it. Just like any addiction, you can relapse at any moment if you're not careful. And it took me, guys, 4 years, no joking, to get over this guy. I cried for the first year. I would cry every night. It was something I had been heartbroken before, but this was it was different, and I don't know why. I think it was because it was tied into something else, which I don't want to talk about right now, but I think that's why the attachment was intensified so much more. I think that's the explanation, and I'm sorry I can't go into it right now, but maybe I will someday. At that point, I swore off pretty much dating in general. I told myself, well, Nancy, if you are not capable of having healthy relationships, then you're not going to have any relationships at all. So 6 years later, I'm still single, and I try not to think of it as me punishing myself. I think it started out that way, but what has happened, interestingly enough, is that I have become so comfortable with being by myself that the thought of having to share my life, my space, my bed with someone else is just a turnoff to me. I value my independence. I always have, but I was always very codependent with my relationships. And so now it's both extremes are bad, right? I went from just not being able to be without this guy to now I'm fine staying single forever. And that's not, I don't think it's healthy either, because it's my therapist tells me, you're denying a part of yourself that is human nature. So you're shutting that part down. And I know that she's right to some extent. Hold on, let me grab something. But at the same time, I'm just comfortable, and I also think it's the fact that I'm just really afraid of, obviously that's part of it, of allowing someone to, becoming vulnerable, opening yourself up to someone else that can give them a chance to hurt me again. By the way, this is some primer and a Q-tip that I'm just using to remove that, because the primer keeps it from not lifting, hopefully, the eyeshadow. So anyway, at the beginning like I said, it was, I think, me punishing myself for not being able to attract. Shit, I just messed up this eyeshadow completely. Now, like I said, it's more that now I become too comfortable with the idea and don't know how how I would be comfortable with someone. I'm just not interested. I also know, though, that menopause has a lot to do with that, because menopause, wow, I have a mess all over. It's this heat down here. Darn it. Well, you know what? I didn't set my under eyes. That was not helpful either. That's the only way I can prevent transfer. And I completely forgot to do it. Okay, we're gonna have to pull out the big guns. Wipes. What was I saying? I lost track because of this mess. I've become just too comfortable. And that menopause, you know how it affects our hormones, and one of the things is it affects your libido. From what I've read, it just pretty much, it just, gets rid of it. And I think that's part of that. Like, I feel no need. I'm perfectly fine. If it wasn't for, the fact that sometimes, you see other couples and then you're like, oh, that would be so nice if I had someone like to, go on vacation with, go to the movies, just do fun stuff. Because it's like, my kids are older, they have their boyfriends and girlfriends, they have their life, and I'm happy for them, obviously, and they live with me right now, but I know that there's gonna come a time where my kids are gonna go away and live their lives. So then part of me is like, okay, then I start to get a little nervous about how am I gonna deal with getting old, dying by myself? And then, so that concept doesn't sound very good to me. And so that's when I start, my God. Okay, I put too much powder, but whatever. So when those thoughts come is when I start to then kind of try to push myself. So I signed up to this Hinge. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a dating app. It's just one of the very many. And I get like some guys reach out and whatnot, and I try, but that it's just like it's not for me. I just, I have tried online dating before, and there was a time, like, people usually turn out to be not what they claim they are. Have you ever noticed, like, if you've been on a dating app, the first picture is like, oh wow, like they look kind of hot, wow. And then you keep scrolling down and they get older and heavier, and by the time you get to the bottom, you're looking at a 60-year-old man instead of like the 25-year-old that was at the top. Remember him? So I've been turned off because I've had that happen. And I just it's like I don't have time for that. Like I don't have patience for bullshit. I'm sorry. But I still have tried to push myself and open myself up to it. I'm like, and give it a chance, but then I'll try for like a day every 2 months, and that's not gonna work. Like, that's not really giving it. Because from what I understand, even young girls, like, dating is not easy. And also it causes me anxiety. Like, having to talk to someone or meeting up with someone, like, that shit gives me anxiety, and I can't afford to be anxious, because that takes me to pretty ugly places, and I just can't allow myself. So I kind of struggle with both, back and forth. Okay, so it's like, okay, you're gonna die by yourself, and you just have to make peace with that, or open yourself up to dating. So I'm always back and forth, So, oh wow, this shimmer is so gorgeous, but I got it all the way up there. You see that? but how gorgeous is this? By the way, this is from this palette. Oh, can't even hold it up. This palette. It has the most beautiful pinky natural tones. Look how pretty that is. I wish I hadn't messed it up here. Let me see if I can clean that. Today's makeup has been more damage control than actual, like, fun. I'm sorry, guys. I hope at least my storytelling is keeping you a little bit entertained, which, by the way, if you are being entertained, would you be kind enough to give it a thumbs up, because it helps me out. And if you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Okay, I'm done. So that's where I'm at. I don't want to age and get old by myself, but I don't want to date. So what do I do, guys? I mean, maybe you guys can have some suggestions for me to help me out. That would be awesome. Comment down below. Let me know, what would you do in my case? Because I don't ever, I can't say ever. I'm open to dating someone younger. I'm just not gonna date like a 25-year-old, obviously. So, but I'm okay if it's someone that, you know, is like 10, even 15. As long as it's, you know, he's a grown man, hopefully, you know, ideally someone who's already been married like me, who has his own kids already, you know, someone that has more things in compatible with me. Is that how you say it? More compatibility with me. So, you know, that's the goal. That's the dream. There's, I don't know if it's a website, but it's called like Meetup. And I thought that that would be a cool way of meeting people, because it's like, you know, let's say you like hiking, so you go to these hiking events and it's only like single people go there. So see, right there, I'm asking for your suggestions, but yet I know what I need to do. But then when it comes time to do it, I bail.